Sons of King, King. Sons of King.
Bless you, brother.
King.
And what is our destiny? To be in this truth. To be in this truth and to make it to the end. As it is written, to finish the work. Like Yahweh Shai said. I have finished the work. You know? The Apostle Paul said the same thing. Henceforth I know there's a crown of righteousness that is laid up for me. Okay, that is our destiny.
But ye shall be named the priests of the Lord. Men shall call you the ministers of our God. Ye shall eat the riches of the Gentiles, and in that glory shall ye boast yourselves. For your shame ye shall have double, and for confusion they shall rejoice in their portion. Therefore in their land they shall possess the double. Everlasting joy shall be unto them. For I the Lord love judgment. I hate robbery for burnt offering. And I will direct their work in truth. And I will make an everlasting covenant with them. And their seed shall be known among the Gentiles, and their offspring among the people. All that see them shall acknowledge them, that they are the seed which the Lord hath blessed. I will greatly rejoice in the Lord. My soul shall be joyful in my God. For he hath clothed me with the garments of salvation. He hath covered me with the robe of righteousness, as a bridegroom decketh himself with ornaments, and as a bride adorneth herself with her jewels. For as the earth bringeth forth her bud, and as the garden causeth the things that are sown in it to spring forth, so the Lord God will cause righteousness and praise to spring forth before all the nations.
Sons of King, King. And the King, King. You. Sons of
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to the young brothers, and peace and blessing and salutation to the hopeful that got there pushing his word and truth and this series across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Makakadash, and double honors, Shalaki, peace and salutations and blessings to you brothers and sisters who came back, all right, to the faith and obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashem Al Shai in these last days. Okay. And what I want to get into is Gird Up Thy Loins, which is a precept in the book of Luke. Okay, going into that concept, all right, understanding what it means, especially for us in these last days, which that goes back, to ancient customs, based on, our attire, we wore, garments, that's our ancient attire, you see. But going into these times, this is the time now. All right, matter of fact, let me see. Yeah, let's just get the book of Luke chapter 12 and verse 35. All right. It's the book of Luke chapter 12, verse 35. It said, let your loins be girded about and your lights burning, and this is the time to be on truth for this fire more than ever, because as we die to this world and become alive in Yahweh Shai, We should be on fire for what we see happening, man. Because the Lord at work. Our power is at work, man. Things that are happening is the Lord putting things in place to end the kingdom of Esau, Edom. Okay, put these heathens in captivity and deliver His elect. Okay, what we see happening is our power, is at work. And we die to this temporary setup. Okay, this false reality of Esau, Edom, and we become alive. Okay, in the reality of the kingdom that's to come. Okay, like we got into the kingdom is at hand. So every day is a step closer to the kingdom and a step closer to the destruction, okay, of this current society, this current age. This current age is at the end, and our light should be burning, speaking the downfall of it, man. Speaking the end of this place, man. Okay. And just to go into that custom that said, let your loins be girded about and your lights burning. Oh, so lucky. So real quick, just to go into that custom when you go into right the book of where you go into this Google, real quick Google search. Now it says I asked her what is the cultural background of having your loins girded in ancient Israel. So it says in the ancient Near East, people wore long flowing robes to perform strenuous activities like running, fighting, or heavy labor. A person would rather gather the hem of their garment and tuck it tightly into their belt, a process called girding the loins. This provided physical freedom of movement, you know? So in the spirit, girding up our loins, all right, because it's a mindset, it comes from, custom, all right, based on the garments we wore, and to be able to be more mobile. Okay, we will tuck the bottom of the garment, we will tuck it in, to free our legs. Okay, so we can be more agile, and ready for movement, strenuous, farm work. All right, going to war fighting. Okay, you will gird your loins. Okay, and it will remove, a hindrance, your role from being a hindrance to your movement. Okay, and girding our loins now is getting rid of distractions in our mind, man. Getting rid of the things, that can hinder us from moving how we need to move in the spirit. Whether distractions, certain vices and, particular things that can be a hindrance, even people, you know, that can be a hindrance in how we move in the truth, man. There's a hindrance to our movement. Okay. So we get rid of the excess, you see, so we can move how we need to move in this thing, man, and be efficient. All right. It says in daily life, loose tunics were a severe hindrance. If a man needed to run or engage in battle, his flowing robes could tangle around his legs or slow him down. By pulling the fabric up and securing it around the waist with a heavy rope or girdle, the legs were freed. Therefore, the action became synonymous with being physical, all right, physically prepared, alert, and ready to spring into action. Okay? Physically prepared and alert. And this is the time to be alert more than ever and ready to spring in action with the gospel, man. With prophecy, man. This is the time because, there's so much to talk about now. You see, there's so much to talk about. Okay, there's so many news articles. There's so much, on YouTube. Because even there was a time when YouTube was real sensitive, man. But for the last, about 2 years, man, YouTube kind of been wide open, man, with the information that they're allowing to come out. You can say the C word almost freely, the V word. Okay, so this is the time, man. The Lord is making it easy for us to be watchmen because there's so much happening. Okay, and we have so much access, to news and alternative news and inside information. Okay. So this is why, we should have a loins girded. All right. Girded up the loins in our mind. Okay. Which means have a mind that's freed up. You see, for the action of the truth, man. You see, being on alert for the truth. And it says, biblical writers adopted this physical practice as a powerful metaphor for mental and spiritual, okay, preparedness. You see, said biblical writers adopted this physical practice as a powerful metaphor for mental and spiritual preparedness, man. So girding up the loins of our minds in these last days, man, and our lights burning, which is the truth that's in us, man. You see, we should keep that light going, and this light is overshadowing the darkness, man. Okay. It said readiness for service. It says in the New Testament, Yahushua instructs his followers to let your waist be girded and your lamps burning, commanding constant spiritual alertness and ready for his return. Okay? And ready for his return. Because we in the time now, man, our life should be geared for the return of Yahushua, man. Ready to leave everything in a moment's notice. Because we know that this is just a temporary setup, man. Okay? We have a kingdom promised to us, man. Okay? We have life promised unto us, man. You see? This is not the end all be all, man. Some goddamn America, all right, this beast system. Nigga talking about the technocracy. Nah, man, this ain't it, man. No, we ready for Yahushua, man. The Lord is going to send Yahushua back to judge the earth in righteousness, man. That's a guarantee. And having our loins girded and our lights burning, man, the constant spiritual alertness, and readiness for the return of Yahushua, man. Okay, so let's go back to the the book of Luke. All right. So when you go to the book of Luke, chapter 12, verse 35, again, it says, let your loins be girded and your lights burning, and ye yourselves like unto men that wait for their Lord, when he will return from the wedding, that when he cometh and knocketh, they may open unto him immediately. Okay? And Yahushua returning from the wedding is him returning from the spiritual realm. You see? Because as he returns from what being joined, with the Father, okay? Because one thing about what Yahushua did, okay, was pleasing to the Father. The Father gave Yahushua everything. You see? All power, okay, and eternal rulership. Okay? And when Yahushua comes back, okay, he's coming to upgrade us and to give us power. Okay? And to make us joint heirs of the rulership given to him. You see? It says that when he cometh and knocketh, okay, and Yahushua, he's knocking now. The prophecy is Yahushua knocking at the door. Okay? The prophecy that's unfolding is likened unto Yahushua, knocking on the door. He's close. You see? So we at the time now, and the ultimate fulfillment, is at his return. Okay? But those knocks are getting louder. Okay? They're more consistent, man. You see? And ultimately when he returns, the ultimate knock, because he come to kick the door down on Esau kingdom, man. As a thief in the night. And see, we want to be like that good servant who can't wait for the Lord to come back, because we've been on point. We kept his house in order. You see? So we're not going to be scrambling, okay, trying to get things together while he's knocking at the door. No, they're together. So we can go to the door immediately. You see? So this is what we've been preparing for. Now our life has went from our personal interest to preparing for the return of Yahweh. We still handle our, personal obligations. Okay, that's the background now. At the forefront is preparing for Yahweh. Okay, verse 37 says, "Blessed are those servants whom the Lord, when he cometh, shall find watching. Verily I say unto you, that he shall gird himself and make them to sit down and meat, and will come forth and serve them." Okay, which means we're going to be honored with the highest honor, man, at the return of Yahweh. And that's an honor. Your Lord, serves you. That's a high honor as a servant. Okay. So letting us know, man, those who are found watching, man. You see? And that's why this is what we should be occupied in. Let's get some precepts, because even going back, the Lord has prophesied that he would raise up watchmen, okay, in these days. You see? When you go to Isaiah 50, 52 and 7, it says, "How beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of him that bringeth good tidings," which is good news, the gospel. Okay, because when you go into the gospel, well, you gotta go into prophecy. Okay, because the good news is future tense. Okay, because the Lord's finna change right now for us. He's finna change our reality. Okay, and that's within what the good news. See, judgment is good news for us, man. Mass judgment going throughout the earth. Well, there's good news for the elect. Okay, and there's peace for the elect, man. Okay, it says they bring it good tidings of good, that publishes salvation, that saying unto Zion, thy power reigneth. Okay, and this is what we're proclaiming to our people. No, it's our power that's in control. Esau not, all right, the highest authority. Contrary to popular belief, Esau not the highest authority. No, our power reigneth, man. The Most High is controlling Esau, man. The Most High is in control of everything, man. You see? So we're telling our people, no, it's our power that reigneth, man. Esau ain't on shit, man. Fraud ass nigga, man. You see? No, we have a true power, man. The Lord, and that's why, hey, the Most High finna send you Howard shot back to show true power, man. Okay? This gimmick ass nigga Esau, man. You know? And as we wait, man, we grow a perfect hatred for that nigga Esau, man. Okay? Verse 8, it says, thy watchmen shall lift up the voice, with the voice together shall they sing, for they shall see eye to eye when the Lord Yahweh by Shema Shah shall bring again Zion. Yeah, so the Lord prophesied that there will be watchmen. Okay, and that's the prophets coming back, man, as watchmen. You see? So we've been, instructed to stay on our watch, man, to stay on our post until the return of Yahweh Shah, man. You see? Going from there, get another one just to show. We'll get that in Ezekiel. Ezekiel 3 and 17. It says, "Son of man, I have made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel." Yeah. So we've been made watchmen. Okay. The Lord has raised up the prophets in these last days to be watchmen unto the house of Israel. And there's a remnant that's taking heed. Okay, there's a remnant that's making the adjustments. There's a watchman constantly blowing the trumpet and coming with a report of what's happening, man. You see, he said, therefore, hear the word at thy mouth and give them warning from me. Okay, and give them warning from me, because we're warning what the Lord is going back to it. Is what the Lord is getting ready to do. Esau is just a tool that the Lord is going to use to judge. Okay, but it's the anger of the Lord that's judging in the earth, man. Okay, and Esau is just a tool that's going to be used in that judgment, man. But there's going to be judgment happening above what Esau got going on, man. Okay, because the Lord, the scripture say, He despises, the image. He despises this current age. You see, there's a controversy in the land. All right, this is a proud, society, man. Especially these Western nations, man. Especially America, man. So it's the Lord's anger that's going to judge this place, man. Because even Esau, the tool, he's gonna get caught up in that anger, man. And the most of the anger is directed towards this nigga, man. Okay, because he's the one responsible for the current condition of the earth, man. The current condition of the people. Well, it's based on the rulership of Esau, man. Okay, so the Lord has made us watchmen to give warning of him and what he's getting ready to do, man. Esau's within it. You see, Esau's not operating outside the agenda of the Lord. No, he's operating exactly, okay, within the will of the Lord, man. All right, let's go here. All right, because even in the New Testament, Yahweh Shai, let's go here, Matthew 26 and 41. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 26, verse 41. It says, watch and pray that you enter not into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. Okay, so we're commanded to watch, man. It's Yahweh Shai speaking. Watch and pray. This is a time of prayer. Okay. It's a time to really, talk to our power, man. Going down the clutch. We need to talk to our power more. You see? Send up those requests. Put them curses up. Pray for strength, courage in these days, faith. You see, patience. You see? Because the Lord, He gives daily, faith boosters, our power. He's constantly sending out those faith boosters, man. You see? So the spirit is willing. That's why we gotta be in the spirit, because the flesh is weak. The flesh wants to be comfortable. The flesh is concerned with the right now. Okay? The flesh is of this world. You see, but the spirit, okay, is locked into the world to come. And that's why we gotta tap into the spirit. Okay? Feed the spirit, man. We in the time of these last days, man. Feed the spirit, man. Okay? We should be getting to the point to where we dominate the flesh, man. Especially in these last days, because that's Esau leverage on the world is people operate in the flesh. You see, and they're buying and selling. That's gonna target the flesh. You see, but we in the spirit, we know, like, nah, man, the Lord promised He gonna provide. You see, we know Esau ain't talking about a goddamn thing, man. In these last days, man. You see, so when you go here, and then I want this First Peter 4, just to show, man, that being a watchman is saturated, through the scriptures. We're constantly, commanded to be on our watch. Okay, all throughout the old and the new. It was prophesied in the old, okay, and then it was instructed in the new to be on our watch, man. First Peter 4:7, but the end of all things is at hand. Be ye therefore sober and watch unto prayer. You see that? They're watching and praying. So we seeing these things, man, and also, being thankful, appreciative, those prayers of thanks and appreciation as we see the Lord's will unfolding in the earth, man, because we understand what it leads to, man. And it just shows that He is. You see? So I want to get this real quick because you go into the life of a watchman. It just reminded me of it reminded me of the truth. So real quick, Google look up as what was life like for an ancient watchman. And life for an ancient watchman was lonely, high stakes routine, defined by extreme isolation, punishing weather, and constant vigilance on city walls or agricultural towers. Sound familiar, man? Sound familiar. You see, it said life for an ancient watchman was a lonely, high stakes routine defined by extreme isolation, punishing weather, and constant vigilance on city walls or agricultural towers, man. And that's the life of a prophet, man. No doubt about it. Some brothers more than others give or take. You see, but this sums up the life of a prophet, man. High stakes, because we know, all right, this devil is, putting these legislations in place, for all this extremism and anti this, and anti-American, anti-Semitic, anti-capitalism, this and that. We know that the stakes are high in what we're doing. We can be in prison, or put to death for what we're doing. You see? But we understand that what He is. And we understand that Yahweh Shai is a resurrection, man. So death shouldn't move us, man. Okay? You got to deal with the elements, whether it's blazing hot, okay, a brick coat. You see? And we got to have the vigilance, which is to be looking, watching what's going on in the news. Okay? What's the happenings, being in the loop. Okay? It says their primary duties were scanning the horizon for approaching threats, controlling city gates, and sounding alarms. And are we not sounding the alarm? Okay, like I said, are we not scanning the horizon when we look out into the world and see what's going on? We're scanning the horizon, man. Okay, just like an ancient world watchman. You see? And it says daily duties and routines, said constant scanning. Watchmen stared at distant roads, tree lines, and mountain passes for dust clouds, indicating approaching armies, bandits, or merchants. You see, and that's tedious, man. So you look at the tree line, you see something moving. So that's tedious, man. You're looking to see if dust come up from the mountains, from the hills. Okay, that's real. That's real tedious watching, man, and that's what it requires. As we look out, all right, we can see, all right, the tree line shaking, man. We see, these devils push certain legislations, okay, when they come out and push certain, technology for this new world order, this technocracy. We see the tree line moving, man. We see dust coming off the mountains, man, knowing that, hey, the time is coming. And what we do, we sound, the alarm. Okay, and Esau, that bandit, you see, that thief, okay, who wants full control. It says gate control. It says station at urban gateways. They monitor who entered or left, managing trade traffic during the day, and locking heavy timber gates at night. In agrarian setting, watchmen man temporary stone towers over ripening vineyards and grain fields to deter thieves and wild animals. It says They carry horns, trumpets, okay, or fire beacons to quickly relay alerts across miles to neighboring outposts or to the interior of the city. Yeah, so when we do these videos, it's like that light. Because scripture will have your lights burning. You see? Because the light is how you will signal to other posts all the way back to, because you have some towers that be farther out than others. So they'll see things first and they'll signal to the other towers and they'll signal back to the city. Well, that's the internet, that's that light that's burning. You see? Because we're able to signal to one another what's going on. Some brothers see some first, and you do the video where that's him giving that signal, that light to the rest of the post. Okay? It's the same system in the spirit. All right. And it says hardships and environment. It says severe isolation. It says shift lasted for hours, often through the dead of night, forcing watchmen to combat profound boredom and sleep deprivation, man. You see? And that's the thing, that's the thing that has gotten men out of the truth, man, is they claim that it's boring. You see? Well, that's a part of the job of watching, man. This ain't, you see, this ain't no okay, rock star life, man. They want to be a rock star, okay, prophet, man. Okay, with all the fireworks and festivities, nah, man. It's a spirit of isolation. Okay, it's a job that has us isolated, as it said. Okay, and it has us, and it's repetitive. You see, and that can get boring to most men. That repetitiveness, that isolation, okay, the tediousness of it, man, that can get boring. You know, a lot of men is like, look, we out. You see, it said weather exposure says perched on high exposed stone ramparts or open air towers, they face freezing winter winds, scorching desert heat, and driving, all right, rain without modern gear. Okay, so just as we teach throughout the year, we go through every phase, okay, of the weather. We deal with every phase of the weather, coming to teach, the word. You see, and that's why the highways and byways are vital, because it puts you out there in the elements, man, in this building us up. There's nothing like going out to camp, highways. No matter how many, videos you do during the week, man, the camp always hit different out there in the elements, man. Something about it, you know. And I love it, man. You see, certain days, certain days you like, damn, because they're repetition. But then, as of late, man, as the Lord, really been getting down in prophecy, man. It's just been, in the anticipation of camp, man. The last, couple years or so, man, it's been real anticipation to go to camp. You see, and then we see that we need to be around brothers. We isolated during the week, so being around brothers, is a like a release valve for the spirit. You can finally unwind. Do the work. Some certain camps fellowship out of camp, or however, but it's like it's a recharge in the spirit. There's a release valve. That fellowship be like a release valve, man. There's much needed. Because Babylon keep us so pimped up, you got to tiptoe, be suppressed, around these people. Okay. But yeah, going back, let's go back to Luke. Luke 12, just read through the parable. You see, but this is the book of Luke, chapter 12, and verse 38. It says, and if he shall come, matter of fact, 37 again, say, blessed are those servants whom the Lord, when he cometh, shall find watching. Verily I say unto you, that he shall gird himself and make them to sit down to meat, and will come forth and serve them. And if he shall come in the second watch, or come in the third watch, and find them, so blessed are those servants. And this note, all right. Okay. So as I said, they made this big thing about the year 2000. Well, there was apostles being on their watch. Okay. And the scripture say there was Yahushua said it was a day we was going to desire. Okay, well, the disciples, he told the disciples that they was going to desire to see them. Okay, so they were fulfilled, and they wasn't going to see them. Okay, but that mean when we abandon post? No. And you see, really, you got to take your hat off, because those men, they stayed at the post, even though they didn't come when they thought it was going to come. Okay, which they always going to. The whole school taught that, but it just fell on them. You see that, and they try to use that leverage as, oh, they false. No, they fulfilled prophecy, man. It was a day that the Yahweh Shah said it plain, the day you desire to see me and shall not see me. Okay? But those were just men that desired to see their Lord. But then, they took it on the chin, and you see, and kept going. You see? And you got, that's those are men of honor. You see? Verse 39, it says, and this know that if the good man of the house had known what hour the thief would come, he would have watched and not have suffered his house to be broken through. Okay, and that good thief, that good man, that thief is Yahweh Shah. Okay, because he's coming on this place like a thief. Okay, and if you're not ready, all right, that's why I say when you're on your watch, you're gonna be ready because you're watching. That puts you in the spirit. When you're watching, it puts you in a certain spirit. Okay, it said, "Be ye therefore ready also, for the Son of Man cometh in an hour when they think not." Then Peter said unto him, Lord, speakest thou this to parables unto us, or even to all? And the Lord said, who then is that faithful and wise steward, whom his Lord shall make ruler over his household, to give them their portion of meat in due season? Blessed is that servant whom his Lord, when he cometh, shall find so doing. Of truth I say unto you, that he will make him ruler over all that he hath. And Yahweh Shai is coming to take the earth, man. And see, and he's going to assign these good stewards, these faithful watchmen, okay, to be stewards over the earth. As we are stewards over this truth, we're managing, this truth, man, and keeping the Lord's house in order, which is the church. But when he comes back, guess what? He's going to give us, okay, stewardship over the earth, man. As kings and priests. So we in some beautiful times, man. So now it's just watching these things play out according to the will of Yahweh Bashim Al Shai. Okay, and we got the script, man. So we're able to know where we at in prophecy, man. Okay, and according to prophecy, hey, we're getting close. So Lord will, you brothers, all right, and you few sisters edified once again. I want to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shah Bahashim, Makakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples of young brothers. And peace and blessings, salutations, hopefully. Shalom.